Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Om Agyantimirandasya Jnananjanachalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamayam Dadati Supadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagarjatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vidam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये पंच कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमद् स्वामी नाम्ने नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमति भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिन् इति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश मुखं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरं हरि ओम तत्सत् हरे कृष्ण. So we want to continue our discussions on the beautiful pastimes of Dhruva Maharaj. By the way, before I forget, I just want to remind that tomorrow is the auspicious Tithi of Vijaya Ekadashi. So please observe accordingly, those who are observing the fasting. So on days like Ekadashi, which come once every fortnight, we observe by fasting from grains, beans, pulses, and try to increase our spiritual activity as far as possible. So on these days, one gets much more spiritual benefit, and they're very helpful for spiritual advancement. So just a quick reminder for those who are observing. Those who are not, we gently encourage you to see you can slowly start making that observance. So we are in the 9th chapter of the 4th canto. Dhruva Maharaj, through his severe austerities, almost forced the Lord to appear. Of course, the Lord cannot be forced, but to the extent that at an external level, the demigods rush to the Lord and pray to him, please save us, though Dhruva is suffocating the universe. And Lord Vishnu said, yeah. I'm on my way to fix the issue. So this was probably one of the quickest journeys, 6 months from not being a devotee to achieving Krishna Prem. And that is why this particular pastime is so popular. So when there is focus and when there is determination, how the intensity of devotion can actually lead to very rapid transformation. So that is another thing we have to learn, and that is why whenever we are asking questions, Prabhu, how long will it take for me to become pure devotee? So actually, nobody else can answer that for us. We have to answer that for ourselves. Prabhupada, certain recorded classes have said, one moment, all it takes is one moment. Because in the case of Maharaj Khatwanga, he became fully Krishna conscious in one moment. So I do not want to go into that pastime today. It comes later in the Bhagavad. So when it comes to that, we will discuss it. Of course, Dhruva is extraordinary because Khatwang Maharaj, in one sense, was already a devotee, even though he was not a very active yogi by external considerations. He was very much conscious of the goal of life. But Dhruva practically made the journey as a 5-year-old boy from almost 0 to 100% in 6 months. So it's a very, very amazing pastime. So the Lord appeared in front of Dhruva. We discussed how when the Lord appeared, Dhruva was so absorbed in meditating on the Lord in the heart, and suddenly in Dhruva's meditation, the Lord that he was meditating on in his heart disappeared. And he was shocked and he was perturbed, and he opened his eyes, and to his greatest delight, saw that same Lord in front of him. Visible to his eyes, of course, by the Lord's grace. It is not possible to see the transcendental form of the Lord without the Lord empowering us to see. Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita also. Even for the Vishwarupa, Krishna says, you cannot see it unless I give you the Divya Chakshu. Because the Lord's transcendental form cannot be seen with the material eyes. So anyway, this beautiful darshan happened, and we have discussed so many things, and how Dhruva was so overwhelmed, and how Dhruva wanted to glorify. He didn't know how to glorify, because 5 years means he had not even started going to school. So in that sense, he was practically uneducated, a mundane sense. He didn't even know how to glorify the Lord, and the Lord, seeing his predicament, blessed him by touching the conch, the Panchajanya conch, on Dhruva's head. So this beautiful transcendental conch, just glorified in the Bhagavatam, we recited that verse last time. Tom yatudhan pramata pretamatra Pishacha vipragra gora drishti Narendra vidravaya Krishna purito bhimasvano arer hridayani kampaya. How the conch, of course, even though is a blessing for the devotees, for the demons, the sound of that conch shakes their hearts. Dhyani, tremble. So in the war also the Lord uses that conch. We have to understand that, this is just a side point, but since I'm mentioning this, when a person achieves victory on the other person, one of the things we have to understand is half the battle is won when the other party is demoralized. So the sound of the conch shell of the Lord is so fearful to the demons and enlivening to the devotees. So just his sound will practically win most of the battle. The Lord even doesn't have to exert so much force. Even in the beginning of the battle of Kurukshetra, the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, See how the various conch shells were blown, and this Hridayani Vyadarayat phrase is there in the Bhagavad Gita also. How the hearts of the sons of Dhritarashtra were shattered by the blowing of the divine conch shells. Panchajanyam Rishi Kesho. Correct? Panchajanya Devadatta Paundraka Manipushpaka. These various transcendental conch shells. Anyway, so in this case, the conch shell was touched on the head of Dhruva, and Dhruva's consciousness fully blossomed. The Lord gave his blessing by which all the conclusions of the scriptures became realized. And we have discussed this many times, how ultimately spiritual subject matter becomes properly understood when we receive the Lord's blessings. And Prabhupada reminds this again and again to us that do not think that it is just by the manual execution of the external routines and rituals of devotional service that we achieve transcendental realization. We achieve it when Krishna is pleased, and when Krishna is pleased, he with this spiritual grace enlightens our heart with transcendental knowledge by dispelling the darkness made of ignorance. This also we discussed last time. Tesham evanukam partham ahmad jnanajam tamanashayami atma bhavasto jnana deepena bhasa. So we have such a wonderful Lord. You don't even have to worry about, from where I'm going to get knowledge, how will I understand everything. Actually, for devotees, it is so simple. Just have to hold to Krishna's lotus feet and just try to please him and his devotees in whatever way, and everything will be achieved automatically. The deepest secret of the scriptures, which great jnanis and yogis scratch their head for lifetimes and lifetimes trying to figure out, become just understood. They just become understood. And all of us who are sadhakas in our own journey will actually see this principle in action. How spiritual truths, of course, it is not a 0-1, but as we progress, how deeper and deeper aspects of Krishna consciousness, deeper and deeper aspects of scriptures become revealed by the Lord when he becomes pleased, or when the spiritual master becomes pleased. Because, of course, pleasing the spiritual master is not different from pleasing the Supreme Lord. Yasya prasadat bhagavad prasato, yasya prasadat nagati kuto, dhayan stuvam stasya shastri sandhyam, vande guru shri charanarvindam. So Dhruva became fully enlivened, both with devotion and with transcendental knowledge. Bhakti Vedanta. That is why all our acharyas said this whole parampara is a parampara of Bhakti Vedantas. Narad Muni was enlightened by the Bhakti Vedantas. Narad Muni himself is a Bhakti Vedanta. Why Bhakti Vedanta? Because the true culmination of Vedanta is Bhakti. Sometimes some people claim they have understood Vedanta, but instead of taking full shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they try to become the Supreme Truth by trying to merge into Brahman. So they are majorly deviated. But the true conclusion of Vedanta, and Krishna has explained this in the Gita, in the Bhagavatam multiple times, he who understands the real conclusion. We discussed this in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita also. Krishna explains. Saha sarvavid bhajate mam sarva bhavena bharat. He who has understood me as Purushottama. Yomam evam masam mudho janati Purushottama. Sa sarvavid bhajate mam sarva bhavena bharata. He who understands me like this as Purushottama, as one who is beyond Kshara and Akshara. The Lord and maintainer of both, without doubt, understands me as Purushottam. He will fall in love with me and worship me with all his heart. This is again and again, this theme is reverberating across the Gita and the Bhagavatam. So that is why we know that a person who is madly in love with Krishna has actually understood all the conclusions of the Vedas. And somebody who is not madly in love with Krishna, no matter how much he says he has understood, he has not understood. Because Krishna says, if you have understood, you will fall madly in love with him. You cannot but surrender. So when all this transcendental knowledge became revealed, Dhruva became overwhelmed. Beautiful prayers came to his mind and he started offering beautiful choicest poetry. And we also discussed how even to pray to God, God has to give us intelligence. God has to inspire us. Again, another aspect to show how we are actually so dependent on him. 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says, right? Even in the material world, you are dependent on me in all ways. Sun, moon, all planets, I am only causing it. Your digestifier, I am only doing. All your memory, your thinking, everything, I am only guiding. So what is it that is ours that we can offer? We can offer our free will, which is the only one thing which is actually ours, and offer it to Krishna. Krishna, I want to love you. Krishna, I want to surrender to you. So we're going to continue with the prayers of Dhruva. Dhruva has glorified the Lord's transcendental form. He has glorified the process of bhakti as the topmost. He has glorified bhakti as the adequate process by which the cycle of samsara can be eliminated. He has also spoken how, through the process of bhakti, through the association of devotees, one automatically achieves detachment from all material aspects. That's why Dhruva asked the Lord, give me that association. Bless me with that association. And this is another very interesting point we have to note, and we kind of concluded around this point last time. Please understand, even those who attain God, is a very important point to understand. Those who attain God, they are also, when they are requesting the Lord's blessings, they are also requesting, please bless me, that I may always have the association of pure devotees. This is very interesting. We may be thinking, no, I need this association now, I need this. Once I become pure devotee, yes, then I don't have to bother about it. So the great souls explain, I remember His Holiness Radharani Maharaj was explaining. He says, in our current state, if we don't take association of devotees, we will fall down. We absolutely need the association of devotees to learn devotional service, to remain nourished in devotional service, to protect our devotional service. And when we actually attain perfection in Krishna consciousness, eventually in the association of devotees, when we realize the Lord and develop pure devotion, then we cannot live without the association of devotees. Not because we want to attain something, but our hankering for always discussing Krishna and glorifying Krishna and taking association of Krishna and serving and glorifying Krishna and the association of devotees will be so strong that being without the association of devotees will be very, very painful. How many of you feel being without association of devotees is very painful? Anyone? Shyam is saying, Sachi Prema is saying, Bhaskar is saying. Okay. Sini ji, Archana, Leela ji, Sarva Lakshmi Mata ji, Shridhar ji. Okay. Okay, others are on the way. It's okay, it's okay. I know all of you. Doesn't matter even if we are feeling or not feeling like that, we have to work towards feeling it. Of course, we are not yet fully feeling like that, because to fully feel like that, we have to be on that path. So of course, you know, we are not yet there, but at least if we intellectually are able to understand that this is what we want to aspire for, and at least at our level, we have some hankering for that association. That is also a symptom of advancement. The more we hanker for the Lord's association, how can we get the Lord's association in our conditioned stage? It's going to take a long while for us to get the Lord's association like Dhruva got face to face. At least for me, it is going to take a long while. Maybe for you, I don't know if there is any 6-month crash course any of you are doing to achieve darshan in 6 months, but for me, it's going to take a long while. So while we are still in the journey, we get the association of the Lord through the presence of the Bhagavatas, the book Bhagavat and the person Bhagavat, and of course the holy name. But we sense the presence. Even in the holy name, to sense the presence of the Lord is not so easy. But in the book Bhagavat and the person Bhagavat, to sense the presence of the Lord is so much more easier. And that is why it is said in the Bhagavat, when the Lord disappeared and went back to Golok Vrindavan, he still remained in the world in the form of Bhagavat. The book Bhagavat and the person Bhagavat. Yes, Krishna is definitely there in the world as a holy name also. Sometimes it's not so easy for us to relate to him as the holy name. Of course, you have to continuously cultivate. So we have to work towards that goal. So eventually, when we actually become advanced, we will come to a consciousness where we will feel that I cannot live without the association of devotees. And that feeling comes not from the intelligence, but that feeling comes from the heart because of intense desire to continuously glorify and discuss about the Lord. You cannot discuss and glorify the Lord with people who are unable to relate to what you're talking. If you are a super physicist like Einstein, Einstein cannot sit down with a carpenter or a plumber and discuss theory of relativity. No fun. He has to discuss with another scientist who deeply understands the same subject matter of quantum mechanics, theory of relativity, etc., etc., etc. So great devotees relish satam prasangam mama viryasam. They relish discussing. And that is why you will see, I'm coming back to what I was actually mentioning, which is why pure devotees still ask for that association. One, of course, out of their humility, they think that I'm not so advanced, so I need the association of devotees. Also, the other aspect is they want to continually taste Krishna by discussing him in the association of devotees. How did the Gopis and Radharani and all the Gopas, all the residents of Brandawan stay alive in Krishna's absence? The only way they could manage to stay alive was they were continuously absorbed in discussing Krishna Katha and remembering Krishna. Why discussing about him? By chanting his holy names and discussing his various pastimes amongst each other. In fact, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is a beautiful conversation between Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Rai. Ramananda Rai is one of the very close confidential associates of Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya asked Ramananda Rai, because in that particular conversation, Lord Chaitanya was asking questions and Ramananda Rai was answering. Very interesting. By the way, for your information, I don't want to deviate from the topic, but Ramananda Rai is an incarnation of Arjuna and Vishaka Sakhi combined. And Lord Chaitanya is Krishna. So here, instead of Arjuna asking questions to Krishna, Krishna was asking questions to Arjuna and Arjuna was answering. Because in that particular pastime, Ramananda Rai was playing the role of a very great advanced devotee. So the question was, what is the greatest pain in this world? Now, if somebody asks us that question, what is the greatest pain in this world? Many people will say death, greatest pain. Some will say, oh, the Russia-Ukraine war is the greatest pain. Or we will say disease is the greatest trouble. This is the trouble. No money is the greatest trouble. He didn't give any such answer. What was his answer? Anybody knows what was the answer of Ramananda Rai to this question?
Separation from the Lord.
Separation from the Lord. Okay, what else? Anybody? Ramananda Rai gave a very practical answer. He says, separation from the association of devotees is the greatest pain I know of. Now, for conditioned soul like us or beginning sadhakas like us, we cannot relate to these kind of things. When we hear this thing, kya aise bol raha hai kuch bhi. But we should get a hint towards the consciousness of these advanced souls. They make these kind of statements. How much they value the association of pure souls. And why I'm bringing this up is so that we get, we are not yet there, that is the truth, but at least we can get some insight into what is it that these great souls are aspiring for and why is it that they are aspiring for that. So at least we make that, at least theoretically, something which is desirable for us, right? Even though we may not actually feel it in the same way that they are feeling. Obviously, we can't because we are not there. How can we feel? So don't think that I'm expecting you to feel like that. Nor am I feeling like that. But of course, to the extent we are advanced in Krishna consciousness, to that extent, that feeling will develop. But for the pure souls, they are actually feeling. So Raman Rai is not just giving a film dialogue. He's actually meaning it. He's saying the greatest pain I know is to be away from the association of pure devotees. Because at that stage of pure love, when the Lord, even though in love the Lord is felt, but even then the Lord is away. That intense feeling of separation, the real solace to the heart of the devotee, in which he feels Krishna's presence strongly, is the discussion of the glories of Krishna in the association of other pure souls. This is a very profound principle. Very profound principle. I'll tell you another very beautiful point so you can relate to this point. Hanumanji. Everyone knows Hanumanji. Such a great devotee of Ramchandra. Even though Lord Ramchandra went back to Ayodhya, Hanumanji as a Chiranjeeva is still on this planet. So how is Hanumanji sustaining himself in separation from Ram? You know what is the blessing he asked from Ram? That wherever your devotees are chanting your names or discussing your katha, I want to be there. Now, these are not ordinary statements. You may think I say bol diya sentimental some, Oh, there are very, very deep, profound spiritual truths which are the basis of what these great souls are asking for. Because in that association, in that katha and kirtan, in the association of devotees, Krishna's presence is realized. Krishna is tasted and relished through the years. How to taste and perceive Krishna through the years? By hearing about him in that association. So you will see this theme, you will see all the great souls are always asking for this, and this is the reason they are asking for this. And the unfortunate thing is that those who are not mature in spiritual understanding, they take Hari Katha lightly. They take Hari Kirtan in the association of devotees lightly. They think, oh, I want to focus on a puja, I want to do a big yajna, I want to do this, do that. But the greatest of souls, what are they asking for? Even after achieving perfection, they are asking Krishna, please give me always the association of pure devotees so that I can continue to feel your presence and relish the transcendental taste of your association through the process of hearing and chanting your glories in the association of devotees. So I keep mentioning this again and again. You're saying Prabhuji is, what is wrong with him? He's going on talking same point. But the point is, if you don't understand this point, all my Bhagavatam classes are waste. Because this is the conclusion we have to come to. We have to look for Krishna through Harinam, Harikatha, Harikirtan. That is the process in Kali Yuga. So if we do not value, this, and if we give more importance to other things over this, then we are actually missing the point. So again, I am not saying this based on my authority. I have quoted so many authorities just now. I have given Hanumanji's example, I have given Ramananda and Lord Chaitanya's example, I have given Dhruva's example, and you see all the prayers by all the great souls. This is what they are asking for.
Massage.
So if somebody is getting the opportunity, so the point is, if we have got the opportunity to associate with devotees, may not be necessarily that we have got the opportunity directly all the time to associate with the greatest Paramhamsa devotees, but at least those who are in the parampara of Paramhamsa devotees and repeating the message of the Paramhamsa devotees, if we are getting in that association and able to discuss Harikatha, we have actually got a very, very big blessing. It doesn't matter whether we are speaking or hearing, because in none of the prayers, the great souls say, let me be in that association and let me give class. They never pray like that. It doesn't matter who speaks and who hears. The relish is both for the speaker and the listener. If they have the right spirit of devotion, it actually doesn't matter at all. Parikshit Maharaj was a pure devotee. Sudev Goswami is a pure devotee. One was relishing in speaking, one was relishing by hearing. It doesn't matter. So how much we must be grateful for the opportunity that we have got. And if we value the opportunity that we have got, Krishna will always bless us with association of more and more intimate nature, by which we can make even more and more spiritual advancement. So I hope this point will settle into our consciousness. Later on, if you have any questions on this specific point, we can discuss later towards the end of the class. So I want to continue with the prayers. So Dhruva is praying. We are discussing from verse 13 onwards, chapter 9, Canto 4. That up to now, I only was aware of material forms and names. So Lord, by your grace, today I am actually perceiving your transcendental form. I am beholding it now, and now I no longer have to speculate on the nature of your transcendental form, because I have realized it in front of me. So the point is, spiritual subject matter we cannot understand simply by speculating, because you cannot speculate about something which you have no experience about, isn't it? Can you imagine something of which you have no experience? Even in the material world, you can't. Just think about it. If you have never tasted a mango all your life, or if somebody has never tasted a mango, are you able to convey the taste of mango to somebody by describing it? Any one of you want to try? If I don't know how mango tastes, you want to try? Explain to me how mango tastes. So if you don't have any experience, words will be very inadequate. It can hint, can say it is sweet. It can give some semblance with some things of which we have experience, but it can only go that far. So that is true for material things. What to speak of transcendental things where we have practically no experience of. So Dhruva is now perceiving the Lord's transcendental form and said, wow, all this while I was speculating, and now I am actually seeing. Now I can see things so clearly. And now I can understand who you are and what your personality is. You are the same Lord, comes as Garbhodakshay Vishnu. And you are lying on Anantashesh, and from your navel sprouts the lotus on which Brahmaji appears. So you are not ordinary. You are the refuge of the whole existence. At the end of the Kalpa, all these living entities become temporarily absorbed in your body. Again and again, creation and destruction. So there is a interesting, I'm going to just jump over some sections because there's a lot of technical discussions, and I can go into that, but it will take us a very long time to complete the chapter if I get into too much details. But the Lord essentially, in the next verse, he gives a comparison between the jivas and the Supreme Lord to make it very clear how the jivas are affected by Maya and how the Lord is always transcendental. He says that the Lord is Nitya Mukta. The conditioned soul is generally Baddha and becomes Mukta only by the Lord's grace. How the Lord is Parishuddha, completely pure, but the living entity is contaminated by the modes. How the Lord is Vibuddha, fully omniscient of everything, and how the living entity's little knowledge also gets covered by Maya. How the Lord is the Supreme Soul, and how the conditioned soul becomes bewildered by thinking his body as the soul. The Lord is Kutastha, transcendental, who never changes his transcendental form. But the living entity going from body to body, thinking his body to be his soul, goes on changing forms. And so on and so forth. So there are many, many wonderful comparisons. So please refer to the Bhagavatam. And then he describes the Lord as the possessor and enjoyer of all energies. Vividha Shaktayaha, Viruda Gatayaha. And the Lord's energies are diverse, and the Lord's energies are also sometimes contrary. For example, the Lord's material energy and the Lord's spiritual energy are functioning in apparently different ways. Of course, ultimately aligned with the Lord's desire. But apparently, one is giving knowledge, one is covering up knowledge. So the Lord is so amazing, and his energies are also so diverse. Some energies result in destruction, some energies result in creation. Some energies lead to repeated birth and death. Some energies lead to the deliverance of living entities from birth and death. Parasya Shaktir Vividhyaiva Shruyate Swabhaviki Jnana Balakriya. So the Lord is full of unlimited energies, and all these energies are serving his purpose and serving his desires. And they play their own role in the material and the spiritual worlds according to the Lord's ultimate purpose. They are all his servants. All the energies of the Lord, the Shaktis, are the servants of Shaktiman. The Shaktis are the servants of Purushottama, the supreme enjoyer. And then Dhruva prays, referring to the Lord as the very kind, merciful maintainer of all. He says that, O Lord, your lotus feet are the highest attainable blessings, which surpass all material blessings. You are the very form of all human goals, and you are obtainable by those who worship you without any material desires. And you are so kind, you are so merciful that you even maintain those ignorant people, devotees like me, just like a cow which protects her calf. Very interesting thing Dhruva mentioned. He says that I'm like a ignorant calf. The calf doesn't know anything. Now Dhruva is something interesting. Why he started to refer to himself as an ignorant calf is because Dhruva is already feeling in his heart, after his transcendental realization, is already feeling in his heart, oh Lord, what did I do? The Lord is so great and his devotion is so great, and I set out to worship him for such a trivial reason, materialistic reason. So he's already feeling some remorse in his heart. So he's praying to the Lord in a way, admitting that I am like an ignorant cow, but oh Lord, you are so kind that you are maintaining me. Even just like a cow gives milk to an ignorant calf and protects the calf from wild animals, even though the calf does not serve her. So similarly, the Lord protects even those fallen individuals who may take shelter of him, even though those fallen individuals may not have done extensive worship for him, and they may still have material desires. As long as there is some aspect of devotion, some sweetness of devotion in that living entity, even though he may not be very advanced, still gets the protection of the Lord, just like a mother cow protects her calf. Very nice example, very beautiful. So he's praying to the Lord, please protect me and maintain me. Because he's feeling towards the end of this prayer, in verse 17, he concludes his prayers and he's telling the Lord, oh Lord, please forgive me for my ignorance and protect me. So then the Lord, having heard the prayers of the intelligent Dhruva, Dhimataha, who had the right intention, Sat Sankalpa, the Lord, who is very affectionate to his devotees, Bhrityanurakto, spoke. Now, this is another very wonderful quality of the Lord. One of the most wonderful qualities for all devotees. And what is that quality? The Lord is extremely affectionate to his devotees. So, of all the qualities of the Lord, if this was not there, then all other qualities would not serve much purpose. Right? I mean, just think of it. So the point is like this. Somebody may be very powerful, very rich, very beautiful, very knowledgeable. But all of this has some relevance for you only if that person is favorably disposed towards you. Otherwise, how does it matter? Correct? Bill Gates is rich. Elon Musk is rich. Does it make any difference to you? Nothing, no? Whoever in this world are rich, powerful, knowledgeable, how does it make any difference? Unless only if they are favorably disposed to us, it is going to make any difference to our lives. So yes, all these qualities of the Lord are wonderful, but the most wonderful quality is that even though we may be insignificant living entities, even though we may be struggling spiritually, if we have some affection for him, and if we are just even trying to be his devotees, you may not even have become so successful yet, but even if we have that, the Lord is so affectionate that even at our stage of infancy in devotion, extends his shelter, his protection, and just like Dhruva was mentioning earlier, protects us like a cow, protects a calf, even though the calf may not have done much service to the cow. So this is the insurance we are talking about from the devotion, from the Lord. So again, this is another reason, if we just engage in the service of the Lord, we will automatically be taken care of. Yoga Kshemam Vahamyaham. So the Lord, whose Bhritya Anurakto, he spoke as follows. And the Lord becomes actually very pleased with Dhruva's prayers. And he says, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Vedaham te vyavasitam Ridhi Rajanya Balaka Tat Prayachami Bhadram te Durapam Api Suvrata. Dhruva, I know that you have executed this vow, this Suvrata, this pious vow, with great intensity, and I also know the desire with which you have executed this vow. Your desire with which you worship me is actually very, very difficult to get. Durapam. Durapam means very difficult to attain. And is highly ambitious, but I will favor you with the fulfillment of the desire that you set about to achieve. So the first thing that the Lord tells him is, even though, please note, in this entire prayers, Dhruva did not tell the Lord, I worship you for this reason. If you remember, all through the discussion of the prayers of Dhruva, Dhruva glorified the Lord and pure devotion to the Lord, and he begged forgiveness and asked the Lord to protect him. He asked the Lord for pure devotion. He asked the Lord for association of devotees. He did not ask for kingdom. But the Lord is telling him, I know for why you have worshipped me. I know that desire, and I'm here to fulfill that desire. But, actually not but he says, and not only am I going to fulfill that desire, the Lord says, Bhadram te tat prayachami. I will give that to you, and Bhadram te. And I'm also going to bestow on you the topmost auspiciousness, all good fortune unto you. What does that mean? The Acharyas explain that the Lord is saying, I am going to fulfill the material desire with which you worship me. And not only that, I am also giving you the topmost gift of pure devotional service. So this is another very important point, that those who are devotees, sometimes they may worship with material desire. The Lord may fulfill that material desire, but also he will give you devotion. By this point, Dhruva had practically overcome his material desire. In fact, he didn't even ask the Lord, but the Lord was feeling that whatever reason he has worshipped, I will fulfill it. So Dhruva was previously a bit worried, right? That, oh, I approached the Lord for something material. But here the Lord is allaying that fear, saying, don't worry, I am going to give you both. It is not going to be or. It's not that I'm going to say, oh, you want the kingdom or you want pure love. The Lord tells him, I'm going to give you both. Because you have attained such a high level of devotion, you can digest both. So it is not that the Lord doesn't want to give material blessings to the devotees, but generally the Lord is worried that a devotee who's not very mature in Krishna consciousness, if he is given a lot of material opulence, he may become deviated from the path of devotion. And that is why the Lord is generally hesitant to grant extraordinary material opulence to his sincere devotees. But for very purified souls, and there are many examples like this in the scriptures, Dhruva is one. The Lord not only blessed with great devotion, but gave them huge kingdoms or great opulence, whatever it is. Because he knew that they were so fixed up in devotion that they would not be disturbed, their devotion, by any material opulence. Any one of you can remember and recollect any other examples of devotees whom the Lord has blessed like this?
Prabhuji, Sudama.
Yes, very good. Sudama. He was so poor and he was blessed with huge opulence. Sudama remained unchanged. Very good. Any other example?
Prabhuji, Prahalada.
Yes, Prahlad is also a good example. Prahlad was installed as the king after Hiranyakashipu was annihilated. Yes, that's also another good. And Prahlad was also never disturbed, even though he became a great king. Any other?
Bali Maharaj.
Bali Maharaj also. Yes. Even though for some time everything was taken away from him, for someone who's not disturbed when everything is taken away from him, the Lord knows if I give him everything also, he will not be disturbed. Yeah. Because if you are detached, you're detached in both ways, when things are taken away and when things are given. If you can tolerate distress, you can tolerate also happiness. You cannot say, I can only tolerate distress, I cannot tolerate happiness, or I can only tolerate happiness, I cannot tolerate distress. They both are two sides of the same coin. Somebody mentioned of the example of Narada. Narada, how was he given opulence? Material opulence? I'm not aware of this. Any other examples?
Arjuna.
Arjuna and the Pandavas, they were given finally their kingdom and great opulence. They practically became emperors of the whole world. So like this, there are many, many examples. There are many more as well, where the Lord... Yeah, sorry, Amit, you want to say something?
Parikshit Maharaj.
Yeah, but Parikshit Maharaj was already born as a king. It was not that he attained something at a later point in time. Yeah, but of course, he was undisturbed by opulences. That part is true. But the point is, it's not that he was blessed with devotion, blessed with opulence at a particular point. Fruit seller lady in Brandawan. Yes, that's also a wonderful example. She was given a lot of jewels by the Lord. Sudama, the florist. Krishna entered Mathura, the florist who made a flower garland. Krishna blessed him with all material opulence. For as long as you live, you will have a very opulent, healthy, wealthy life. And after you give up your body, you will come to the spiritual world. That was the blessing Krishna gave to Sudama, the florist. This is another Sudama, not the Brahman Sudama. So there are many such examples, but the point is that it is not that Krishna is hesitant or conjuice, miserly to give material opulence to devotees. He's just concerned about whether they can manage it, because he doesn't want them to be lost in the mire of material existence. Okay? So any of you who want to be very materially opulent, please demonstrate your detachment to Krishna, and then Krishna will bless you. But then when you are blessed, anyway, when you get it, you will not be excited. So anyway, it doesn't matter. So usually it is very difficult to handle great opulence. It is very difficult. At one time, His Holiness Radharani Maharaj, he was speaking to me, and he was speaking on this specific point, and he was trying to convince me. And I know why he was trying to convince me, because certain circumstances were there, and he was trying to convince me that material opulence is actually somebody who's blessed with great material opulence is actually a curse, is not a blessing. Because the reality is that very, very few people can handle great material opulence, and their devotion is not affected. Very, very few people. I'm not saying this. Radharani Maharaj told this. These are his words. He told me very, very, even amongst devotees. And he mentioned the name of some devotees. I mean, not from scriptures, but in our association. And he said this devotee can handle it. But most people cannot handle it. So that's why you see that generally devotees of the Lord are, of course, they are not aspiring for great wealth. They're happy with as long as they are taken care of. But again, the reason is essentially this. But about Dhruva, the Lord was very confident. Yes, you can handle material opulence very nicely. You will not be disturbed. And since you are worshipping me with that purpose, I want to fulfill that desire also. Yes, now you don't think of that desire as something great. But let the world know that I also granted what you asked, so that you become glorified in the world and your fame spreads in the world. So how am I going to grant that desire of giving your kingdom greater than your great grandfather? He says, I am going to award to you this glowing loka, which is known as the pole star, and which continues to exist even after the dissolution of the whole world. No one has ever ruled the Dhruva Lok. In fact, all other planets and stars are rotating and circumambulating this Dhruva, just like a bull who is moving around a yoke for crushing grains. Keeping the pole star to the right, various stars and planets and great sages like Dharma, Agni, Kashyapa, Shukra are circumambulating the Dhruva Lok. This eternal planet, I want to grant you this planet. So up until that point, that planet existed, but it did not have any predominating deity. Now Dhruva wanted the best of best kingdoms. So this kingdom, Brahma Loka, also is ruled by Brahma. He is the predominating deity there. And he wanted a kingdom better than Brahma Loka. How can you find a kingdom better than Brahma Loka here? So the Lord gave his own planet of pole star, Dhruva, and it became known as Dhruva Loka. because that is the Vaikuntha planet. And in that way, because that planet is transcendental, it is greater even than Brahmaloka. So the kingdom that he got was even higher than that of Lord Brahma. Even Lord Brahma cannot enter into the innermost quarters of that particular kingdom. That is the opulence of Dhruvaloka. O Dhruva, the Lord says, you will rule with dharma, dharma samshraya, on that particular planet. So what is going to happen? Dhruva, he already gives a prediction of what is going to happen. So he says, the Lord says to Dhruva, after your father retires, your father is Uttanapath, after he retires, you will inherit your father's kingdom first. And you will continue to rule your father's kingdom for 36,000 years in this world. But don't worry, you are not going to get old and your senses are not going to be weak. As long as you live, your senses are going to be very, very powerful. Avyahata indriyaha. Very powerful. Because that is very important, right? What is the point? You are a billionaire, but you cannot eat, cannot go around. If you sit, you cannot get up. If you get up, you cannot sit. What is the use of billions? So you will have that kingdom. You will rule that kingdom for 36,000 years. Your brother Uttama, he will die in the future while he goes on hunting. And his mother Suruchi, who offended you, she will go searching for Uttama into the forest and she will be devoured by a forest fire. So indirectly, the Lord is saying that because these two were involved in the offense against you, they will meet with a ghastly death in the future. So even though the Lord doesn't say explicitly that it is a punishment to them, but that is what the Acharyas explain, that this is what will happen to them. So that is why it is said one should be very careful not to offend great devotees. So Suruchi, even though when she offended Dhruva, Dhruva was an ordinary person. Because even though he was the prince, but from a spiritual perspective, he didn't have something very significant. But because he went on to become a very great devotee, the offense that Suruchi did, and also Uttama, because he was part of that situation, even though he wasn't particularly actively involved, she became implicated in the offense of Vaishnav Aparad, offense to a Vaishnav, because later on Dhruva became a very great devotee. So this is also something very interesting. Prabhupada says that she did not know Dhruva was a great Vaishnava. But same way, like one may do unknowingly something good to a Vaishnava and get benefits, similarly, even if one unknowingly offends a great Vaishnava, one suffers the bad result. Yasya prasadat bhagavad prasado, yasya prasadam nagati. That's why one should be very careful. And to the extent that the acharyas say that even if a person is not a devotee now, if somebody and he becomes a devotee later, then those who have offended that person even before he became a devotee also become implicated in Vaishnava Aparad. Very interesting. So the moral for us is be careful whom we offend, because we don't know who will become whom in the future. Just give me 5 more minutes. I want to complete a couple of more verses and then we'll wind up the class. So while you are ruling this earth for 36,000 years, O Dhruva, you'll rule with great dharma. You'll perform great sacrifices. You'll do great charity. So you will rule wonderfully. You will set the example of a wonderful ruler and you'll get all the blessings of material happiness in this life. And after you have completed living like this and ruling the kingdom for 36,000 years, nicely, as per dharma, you will leave your body, you'll die, and while you are leaving your body, you will remember me. Ante Narayana Smriti. So Krishna is already predicting what is going to happen here. The Lord. After you give up this body, Dhruva, then you will attain Dhruva Loka, to the pole star, which will become famous as Dhruva Loka. You will attain to my planet, which is worshipped and respected by all other planetary systems. And having gone where, you will never ever come back to this material world. Correct? Which again indicates that is an eternal abode. Even though it is the material world, it is Vishnu Loka. And that is the place where there is an ocean of milk. We discussed this. And within that ocean of milk, there's an island known as Shweta Dvipa. And on the island of that Shweta Dvipa, the Lord is residing personally in his form as Shirodaka Shai Vishnu. So having said this and having given this blessing, essentially blessing both by giving Dhruva his kingdom in this world, in this life, and eventually giving him Dhruva Loka, he fulfilled his spiritual and material desires. And then after this blessing, and after being worshipped by Dhruva, the Lord sat back on the back of Garuda and returned to his abode as Dhruva looked on with great devotion. So the Lord went back to Shvetadvipa from where he had come. Okay, so we have reached verse 26. I'm going to stop here. It is 1008, auspicious time. So I'm just opening up the floor. If any one of you are getting late, you can drop off. But if there are others who want to have any questions or comments, you can stay back and we can take a few minutes of any comments or questions. Yes.
Hare Krishna, two questions.
Yes. Yeah.
So Dhruva Loka is a Vaikuntha planet in material world.
Yes.
And Prabhuji, I always have one confusion. In the Dhruva Loka, we have Garbhodaksha Vishnu, right?
No. Shirodaksha Vishnu. Shirasagara, the ocean of milk, right?
Okay.
Garbhodaka Vishnu is residing within the Brahma under the whole universal egg, which is half filled with his perspiration. He lies on that Garbha Udaka, the water of perspiration which is coming from him, lies on that. From his navel, the lotus comes on which Brahma is situated, and all the planetary systems are situated within the stem of the lotus, with Brahmalok being at the top. So within that creation of the 14 planetary systems, which is manifest from the lotus, and within that area of the 14 planetary systems, the Dhruva Loka is present as a Vishnu Loka within the material world.
So Prabhuji, the Paramatma in our heart, which form of Vishnu?
The Paramatma is said to be an expansion of the Kshirodaksha Vishnu, because each universe will have Kshirodaksha Vishnu.
Okay.
Yeah. See, but we have to understand that spiritually there is no difference between the Paramatma and all the Vishnu forms or Krishna. Ultimately, it is the same one undivided Paramatma. Right? We have to understand. There's no difference. Paramatma is a manifestation of is a particular manifestation of the truth. There's Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. But ultimately, we have to understand this is Advaya Tattva. It is the same Lord who's manifesting in different features. Right? If you remember, Krishna mentions this elsewhere also. We discussed this in the Bhagavat also, that actually this is the same sun which is reflected within multiple pots as a reflection, but the sun is one. Correct? Right? Yes.
Yeah.
So do not think of Paramatma as chopped off pieces of God. It is not quite like that. For our conception, we try to think of it. It is not my Paramatma and your Paramatma. Understand? Paramatma appears divided but is one. He's the same Supreme Lord. But for the purpose of conception, we say that yes, he's present in the Vishnu Murti in our heart. So that is the meditative conception. But he's present not only in our heart, he's present in each and every atom. Andantastha cha paramanu chayantarastam. Not even atom, even in each and every subatomic particle. He is the sustaining principle for all existence. Yes, and that is where the Lord says, even in the 15th chapter, the Lord says, right, I am making everything possible, everything is existing. Through the Lord's energetic manifestation as his Shakti, and also the Lord's Shakti also doesn't exist independent of him. He's also present within the Shakti. That is why it is Achintya Bheda Abheda. It's very difficult to conceive this intellectually. But essentially, we have to understand the Lord is present everywhere in his various manifestations, whether it's Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. So for us, we see that Brahman and Paramatma are also not different from Krishna, and Krishna is the ultimate source of Brahman and Paramatma. We can say Krishna is present in each and every particle. Krishna is also present in our heart. But in his original complete form, he is present in Goloka Brandavan. And he appears on this earth from time to time.
Yeah. Okay, Prabhuji. Now the second question. God creates this universe using three Shakti, right? Icha Shakti and Kriya Shakti. What are these three, Prabhuji? I don't remember the third one.
Yeah, so I do not remember the detailed roles of each of these Shaktis, but the Lord actually has unlimited energies. Parasya Shaktir Vividaiva Shuruyate Swabhaviki Jnana Balat. And the Shaktis are described in different ways at different times. But we must understand ultimately, see, for example, in some places the Shaktis are described as Para, Apara, and Tatastha. Spiritual, material, and marginal. In some places, they are categorized slightly differently. They are categorized as Yog Maya, Mahamaya. Some places they are described as Bhu, Shri, and Neela. In South India, they are commonly understood like that. But the essential point is, there may be various names. I do not know all the various classifications and all their individual purposes right now on top of my head. But the way I try to remember and the way Prabhupada tries to explain, for us, we should understand, like what I mentioned earlier, there are essentially three energies: spiritual, material, and marginal. We are the marginal, Tatastha Shakti, the Jiva. The Maya is the external energy or the Apara Prakriti. And then the Para Prakriti, the spiritual energy, has three subdivisions: Samvit, Sandhini, and Ladini. Samvit, Sandhini, and Ladini. And in broadly, the names that you have given also generally map to one of these three. Now, I don't want to speculate right now, so I don't want to give a wrong mapping, so I don't want to attempt that. But generally generally all energies fall into one of these buckets. They're either directly one-to-one mapping. So what is this Sambit, Sandhini, Ladini? They basically represent the Sat, Chit, and Ananda aspects of the spiritual existence. Sandhini refers to the Sat potency by which spiritual existence is manifest. The Chit potency refers to spiritual knowledge, and Ladini potency refers to the potency of bliss. So Ladini is the potency which is the potency of bhakti. That's why Radharani is said to be the manifestation of the complete manifestation of Ladini. The Ladini is the most important aspect of potency. So this is the broad categorization of the Lord Shaktis. Having said that, the Acharya has also explained that ultimately the energy of the Lord is one. There is Bhagwan and there is a Swarupa Shakti, his own personal energy. And all these various categorizations of energies are that same energy ultimately performing various functions based on the desire of the Lord. Whether they act in a particular way for the purpose of material creation, they act in a particular way to expand his joy by manifesting unlimited living entities, whether they manifest the spiritual realm and all the various varieties there eternally, and devotion and devotional service through the Ladini potency. Ultimately, all these energies are coming out from the Swarupa Shakti based on the Lord's desire to manifest his Leela and expand his joy. So do not be too confused about the qualifications, but I will just ask you to understand that there's a Swarupa Shakti, ultimately one Shakti, and there are so many broad categorizations of various sub-energies which are ultimately coming from that one spiritual energy.
Got it.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
So that is why we see Krishna as the source of all incarnations, all Vishnus, all incarnations, Rama, Krishna, Ramadi Murti, Shukala Niyamena Krishna, Nana Avatar Makarod Bhavanesh Kintu, Krishna Swayam Samabhavati Paramah Pumaniyo Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham. Even though he is manifested as Rama, Narasimha, Vama, and so many other incarnations, ultimately they are all manifestations of Govinda. That is why he is Adi Purush. Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhaja. Similarly, Radharani is Adi Shakti. From her, all other energies come, whether it is Lakshmi, whether it is Rukmini, whether it is in the material world reflected as Parvati, as the shadow potency. Ultimately, all energies are coming from the original Swarupa Shakti of Bhagwan. So she is the Adi Shakti. Okay, does that help? Yeah. So
Yes,
sometimes different scriptures may give different nomenclature, but broadly they fall into these categories.
That's good. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, any other questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Can I clarify one point, Prabhu?
Yes. Please, Prabhu.
Okay, you were mentioning earlier that, okay, in terms of the discussion between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy, where what is that Ramananda Roy mentioned that association of devotees, it's kind of extremely important. So if we don't get that, we will feel pain in the heart, in the heart and so on. So as us, we are still aspiring devotees until we kind of reach that kind of stage, Prabhu. So when what coming to what things such as association of devotees where we don't feel the pain? Is it we are supposed to use our intelligence to kind of differentiate between because as per practicing devotees we will have so many things to do, so you are supposed to use your intelligence to what see which is in Krishna consciousness and what is it which is not, and then make that choice. Is it that's the point I
Yes,
wanted to ask.
yes, yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. So yes, at one level, yes, and that's why sadhana means whether we like it or we don't like it, whether we feel like doing it or we don't feel like doing it, we do it because it is healthy for our spiritual life. Just like in an unhealthy state, we may have to abstain from certain foodstuffs and do certain things and do certain exercises which we may not like. We still do it because it leads to good health. Because we use our intelligence. That's one thing. So that part is true. But also, uh, sadhakas, as they progress in spiritual life, again, like what I mentioned, this is not a 0 or 100% thing. As we make gradually progress in spiritual life, our appreciation of the value of association of devotees will gradually increase also. And that is why even for new sadhakas, those who are sincerely having experience of the bliss of association of devotees, even in the new stages, can feel the separation or the pain of not being in the association of devotees. So, as a person starts making advancement in Krishna consciousness and by regularly associating with devotees, they can quickly differentiate when they are in a materialistic association. They can quickly differentiate to say, oh God, why am I trapped in this people? I would have rather be in the temple and listen to Bhagavatam class. Right? So this is something which will come, even though they may not be very advanced, because even at the neophyte stage of devotion, one can strongly contrast the experience of material happiness and spiritual bliss. Even though that spiritual bliss may be at a very shadow level or a semblance level, abhasa level only, even that is clearly seen as superior to spiritual association. So we may not feel with the intensity of Ramanand Rai. Ramanand Rai was asked, what is the greatest pain? He said, to be away from the association of devotees is the greatest misery I know. So maybe we don't feel it like that so strongly. But at least we can appreciate, if we are sincere, I'm sure many of the devotees here, yourself included, I'm sure you are easily able to appreciate the value of association of devotees and how much more blissful it is to be in the association of devotees rather than being in the association of materialistic people, right? As a person starts making spiritual advancement, he starts feeling the association of materialistic persons to be a pain. Maybe we may not feel the pain of feeling separation from the devotee so much intensely, but we can at least start by feeling the pain of materialistic association. Yeah. And in that way, that appreciation will gradually grow. Yeah. But again, the point, like what you said, is even though we may not feel that, even if we don't feel that, we must use our spiritual intelligence to make sure that we always remain in the association of devotees. Because if we do not remain in the association of devotees, the reality is that we will become spiritually weak. Unless a person is very mature in spiritual understanding, he has to be very careful to protect his devotional creeper. Correct, Prabhu? I think we lost Prabhu. Yeah. Anyway. So
Okay, yes, Prabhu, thanks. Yes.
yeah.
Thank you,
So
Prabhu.
hopefully we'll reach that stage where we will feel that intense. So the key point is in the stage of sadhana, it is a matter of necessity. And in the stage of realization, it is an intense drive to be always in the association of devotees. It is the calling of the heart. Yeah, so it's like that. So let us hope for that. So that's the safest place, and that's why the great devotees ask for that association. Sunil Madhav Prabhu, Hare Krishna, welcome. Just noticed you are here. Okay, any other questions or comments?
Yeah, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
The Dhruva planet is named after Dhruva, or it was there before that also?
No, it was not known as Dhruva earlier. Looks like it is known as Dhruva after this particular episode. So it is said that there was no predominating deity of that planet before that. Now Dhruva is the lord of that planet. But what was it called earlier? I'm not quite sure. I need to check. It may be mentioned somewhere. But I don't think the shloka specifically mentions the previous name. It just says my planet. That's what the Lord says. Thereafter, you will go to my planet, which I think then started to be known as Dhruva Loka.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
So this is the same pole star we can see in the sky. Okay. So thank you all very much. Tomorrow is Ekadashi, and please observe it. Then I will see you on Wednesday. We will continue. 15th chapter we completed, right? So we will go to the 16th chapter. Okay. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Thank you,
Jai
Prabhu.
Samavit.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, everyone. Hare
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Hope you are better, Rita ji, and everything is
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Hare
But
Krishna.
sorry for that day, actually.
No. I'm sorry. I was not aware of the situation.
No. I just that day I just came from that Kriya and all, no, and I
Mhm.
straight away I have attended the meeting, so I was little bit disturbed, like.
No, but that is showing your intense attachment to Krishna, because you were still attending the class in spite of being distracted by such
Yeah, right.
trauma.
That is always there. Yeah.
That is very auspicious. So that is
Don't
very
like to
good.
miss anything, not like no starting or not end also.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So this is what Krishna appreciates. See, Krishna appreciates when we give him priority, irrespective of what is happening in our life.
For that only we have to regularly attend class and
Very
with the
good.
associate be with the association with the devotees, like that is very
Yes.
important.
Hare Krishna, you have properly understood. So my class is successful.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
thank you so much. Yeah.
So that is my great blessing. All of you are my great blessing. So please bless me also. So that is our goal and aspiration. So if you always take shelter of Krishna, no matter what, sometimes there will be ups, there'll be downs, but the point of devotees, even when we are excited, we are thanking Krishna, and even when we are sad, we are taking shelter of Krishna. A devotee is approach to Krishna is not based on just being devotional when God is giving or doing things the way we want things to happen, and then complaining when things are not going the way we want it. Devotee, that's a materialistic devotee. That is called a prakrit bhakta. They complain when things are not going their way. भगवान मैंने तुम्हारे लिए इतना किया, तुमने मेरे लिए क्या किया? So that is, That's okay for film dialogues.
But that is not our purpose, right? For
Exactly. So our consciousness is, we recognize that Krishna is our loving father and he will put us into whatever situation will be good for us, because it's a matter of spiritual evolution. And the reality is that unfortunately, the nature of the material world is such that we don't learn unless we are put in difficult situations. Sadly, that is the reality. But Krishna is so kind, he doesn't put his devotees into too intense situations, so he manages and controls. Like sometimes a child is brought into a very dangerous situation, but from behind his parents are holding him. But the child is thinking, oh, I'm going to fall, but actually he's being held. God is like that when he deals with his devotees. He may scare them, but he's holding them, even though they don't see it. So we always trust him. That makes us stronger. Yes. So all these situations also, we must always see that what we can learn from all these difficult situations. So for example, whatever you have gone through. So I'm just mentioning this. I mean, for others who are confused and who don't know what we're talking about, she had a close family member who suddenly passed away, Rita ji. So we are talking in the context of that. She later mentioned that to me. So the point is, sometimes when we come across such situations, we must think the way a devotee will reflect is, oh God, everything was okay and suddenly something like this happened. That means, it is such a dangerous situation. Anything can happen to any of us anytime. That is how a devotee is. Oh, am I prepared for it? What if this happens? And this is true for all ages. It is not about, it is increasingly clear. It is not about, death coming at so-called old age nowadays. I have heard so many in their 40s and early 50s passing away through so many kinds of sudden deaths. In the last 1-2 months, I have seen so many cases of either terminal illnesses or sudden deaths. I don't want to go into the details now. In fact, last few days itself, I came across multiple such situations. I was discussing with Amit also, a few others, of how. So the way devotee views all these situations is, it just reconfirms to a devotee that yes, what Krishna is saying is true. Padam padam yat vipadam. There is danger at every step. Anything can happen anytime. Correct? Now in Ukraine, in Kiev, so many things are happening. Who would have thought? People don't know, they're staying in their apartment, suddenly a missile hits. Who can plan for this? Who can do what? Yesterday there was an earthquake in Kuala Lumpur. Of course, fortunately, there was no damage. The point is, who knows when what will happen? So the impetus for devotees always is that they always look at all these situations as, yes, I must be better prepared. Yes, I must be better prepared. Is my consciousness properly tuned? Am I taking seriously shelter of the process of devotional service? Anyway, also just want to inform tomorrow His Holiness Radharani Maharaj is also going to give a live class. So I'll share the YouTube link. If any of you are interested, you can listen. It's always nice to hear from the great souls. That will be very, very beautiful. Okay. So again, I want to thank all of you, and I will see you also. Thank you. Hare Krishna.